If you're like most sellers, you're thinking about the sales price, but I'm willing to bet that you'll pivot pretty quickly to wondering what the bottom line is going to be. Hi, I'm Susan Pruden. I'm with Century 21 New Millennium. I'm going to show you an estimate of net proceeds that reflects a typical offer in today's marketplace. I'm going to show you what the typical expenses are, as well as a couple of places at the end of the video where you're going to get some money back that you might not have thought about. Let's dig in. At the very top of the form, you'll see the proposed settlement date, an annual property tax, and a proration of days for the property tax. Since the tax year for property runs from July 1 to July 30 of the next year, the buyer may end up reimbursing you for taxes that you have already paid. This obviously varies depending upon when settlement is and whether or not taxes have been paid for the current year. Let's drop down to the expenses. The attorney's fees cover the title search, among other things, because you have to have clear title in order to sell your house. In this particular example, we've given our seller a first mortgage to pay off of $250,000. There might be other liens on the property that need to be paid off as well, such as home equity lines of credit, tax liens, mechanics liens, and any other lien that is secured by the house that you're selling. They have to be paid off at settlement. Some of the fees in the attorney/title company fees section ensure that payoffs are sent in a timely manner because you don't want to end up paying more interest than you have to, and also to make sure that it's recorded at the courthouse so that more problems don't crop up for you later. Something to be aware of is that the balance on your statement is not the same as your payoff. The payoff is a combination of the balance and any additional interest or fees owed. Your monthly payment is calculated with the assumption that you will always pay on the first day of the month. This depends on the type of loan you have, but if you consistently pay a few days early or a few days late, it's going to affect your payoff. Next, we have transfer taxes and recordation charges. These are typically split 50-50 between the buyer and the seller. If the buyer is a first-time buyer in the state of Maryland, he'll get a slight discount, but that doesn't change the seller's side of the transaction. You're not going to pay more or less simply because the buyer is a first-time buyer in Maryland. The brokerage fee is split between the listing brokerage and the brokerage who represents the buyer. There's more detail on this in the listing FAQ video. Next on the list of expenses is closing help. A buyer may or may not ask for closing help. The fact is that it's a part of today's real estate transactions, and whether you like it or not is a moot point. That may sound harsh, but it is today's reality. Most types of financing allow for the seller to pay 3% of the sales price to offset the buyer's closing costs. On VA loans, the seller is allowed to pay 100% of the veteran's closing costs. The point is, don't sweat it now. The best thing is to evaluate it on an offer-by-offer basis. Below this video is a link to an article that does a great job of talking about paying closing help. You may also choose to offer a home warranty. We'll discuss the benefits of this when we get a little further into the process of listing your home. It depends a lot on the condition of your property, the ages of your appliances and systems, and so forth. For many buyers, it represents peace of mind that they have some buffer against expensive repairs right after they've sunk their life savings into buying the house. The water bill is the only bill that can become a lien against the property if the bill isn't paid. Your other gas and electric and so forth, they follow you. Wherever you go, the final bill will go to you. But the water bill stays with the property. So we have the title company collect money to pay the final bill, but it's a straight pass-through. Whatever is left over after the bill is paid goes straight back to you. The best way to look at it is that in the rush of moving and packing, the water bill is easy to overlook. This way, the final bill goes to the title company, everyone knows it's been paid, and the buyer doesn't have to worry about their water being shut off, because that's probably kind of important to them. And last, my company charges a $495 administrative fee, which goes to cover the increasing costs of complying with state and federal requirements on storing documents securely, plus reporting requirements and so forth. This fee gets charged to all clients, buyers and sellers alike. And that brings us to the bottom line. Most sellers are going to focus only on this section here, the total credits minus the total expenses, and in this case, our fictitious seller is going to walk away from the settlement table with a little over $106,000. Sections B and C come into play if you're not a Maryland resident, in which case there is an income tax withholding. For more information on this, there is a link below the video. But once I know more about your particular circumstances, we can discuss whether or not this applies to you. Now, as promised, there are a couple of places where you will get some money back after closing. The first is when you go to cancel your homeowner's insurance policy, you will likely get a refund for whatever is left on that account. The other is from your mortgage company. You've probably been paying money into an escrow account. When they get the payoff back, they will do what's known as a reconciliation, and whatever is left in your escrow account that went to pay homeowners insurance and property taxes will get refunded to you probably several weeks after closing. That brings us to the bottom line. Most sellers are going to focus only on this section, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It's the total credits minus the total expenses, and in this case, our fictitious seller is going to walk away with something a little over $106,000. You're going to mostly care about Section A. That's for most sellers. Sections B and C come into play if you're not a Maryland resident, or if any of the sellers are not Maryland residents, then there may be an income tax withholding. For more information on this, there's a link below the video. But once I know more about your particular circumstances, we can discuss whether or not this applies to you. The big thing to take away from this video is that it's a pretty fluid document and a great tool to help you get to the bottom line. Assuming you list with me, you'll get more than one of these. The first one will represent just a typical offer in our marketplace. Once you get an offer, though, I'm going to redo the estimate to reflect the specific terms of that offer. If you get multiple offers, then you're going to get multiple net proceeds estimates. Once you're under contract and terms get renegotiated, perhaps because of the home inspection or the appraisal, then we'll run yet another estimate so you can see how the changes affect your bottom line. And that about covers it. I look forward to talking to you.